Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I know I have not been on here a lot lately. Work has been crazy, but I do have a new kit from Queen & Co. to share with you. It's called Under the Sea. It's a really fun summer shaker kit, and I have 8 cards to share with you and the creation of those to show you how all the shakers work. So it's a little bit of a long video. If you need to speed it up and get through it more quickly, I totally understand. But for those of you who have already bought the kit, or for those of you who are interested in buying the kit, I want to show you everything that's inside. So let's take a look at that first. Okay, so here's the instruction sheet that comes with the kit. There's a bunch of sample ideas and it shows you all of the items that are in the kit. But I wanted to show you up close and personal so you can see them in the video. This is the 6x6 mat stack. There are 16 styles of paper and you get 24 papers. They are double-sided, so you can see there are some very versatile designs like dots, stripes, wavy patterns, and then there's some very specific designs to this kit, mermaids, fish, things like that. These are the foam shapes. The centers pop out to create a kind of shaker shape, and these are the dies that cut the frames to match the shaker shape so that your shaker doesn't always have to be white. You can customize it with any pattern paper. These are the die cut acetate pieces. They are die cut to match all those foam shapes. And here is the stamp set. It's got a bunch of really fun sentiments on it that can be used to make a variety of different cards. Finally, we get to the toppings. These are always my favorite part because they're so fun. This kit's toppings include a bunch of little shells in a bunch of different colors, perfectly matched to go with the pattern papers. Then you get some of these clear beads, and then these I think might be my favorite. These are like mica chips. So they just have a really pretty shiny effect to them without too much bulk. So you can fit a lot in a shaker. You can mix and match colors as well. So the first card that we're going to create is with the dolphin shape. So I am going to use some anti-static powder tool on a piece of the pattern paper that came from the mat stack, and I'm going to use my Versamark ink with the swimming by to say hello sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that right on this blue pattern paper. I'm going to use some white embossing powder on top and then just shake off the excess. And then I'm going to heat set that and glue this paper down to a striped pattern paper. I really love the blues and oranges and yellows. It makes it very summery, this kit. Then I've used some other Queen & Co. dies that are not included in the kit but are great staples to have, so I'll link to them down below as well. And that gives me that little scallop circle and the yellow circle. Here's my dolphin shape of the foam. I pop out the center piece, peel off the back protective layer, and just stick it down on my card. Then I cut out the blue dolphin. It cuts the frame and that centerpiece there. And I'm going to adhere the centerpiece inside the shaker. That's going to make my dolphin blue on the inside and on the outside. I'm going to pour some of those mica chips right inside and fill it up enough that you're going to get lots of shine and texture inside that shaker. Peel off the top protective layer and just get rid of that, that's garbage. And then lay down the die cut acetate piece right on top, and that is your shaker. Now you're just ready to customize it. So I'm going to put a little tape runner on the back side of this frame here and then stick that down right on top. You can see that that's going to cover up that white foam so that this will look like a blue dolphin. And how easy is that to make a shaker? It's really the easiest way. Now I'm going to use some Thermoweb Ultra Bond, which is a really strong liquid adhesive. Put a dot right on that acetate so that I can put a little eye on the dolphin. Okay, the next shape that we're going to tackle is the crab, which I think is so cute. He's so adorable, especially with the big eyes and the mouth that you can cut. So again, I've cut out both the frame and the interior piece, cut out some white eyes and then the little black pupils, and now I am going to use some VersaFine to stamp some black ink on white cardstock here, and it says, sorry you're feeling crabby. And I thought that was so cute. And now I'm going to take some Ripe Persimmon Distress Oxide, and I'm just going to ink the edges of this little stamped sentiment that I've created here. I just thought that was fun because it really matches the crab there. You don't have to do any of this. I just like to match my colors like that on my sentiment strip to my crab. Okay, for the crab body, you're going to pop out this little oval piece, and then you're going to peel off that back protective layer again. I have a couple of pieces of pattern paper here. Again, I cut that flag with one of the Queen & Co. dies, and I'm just trying to position everything because I know that the crab's arms are going to take up some space there, so I want to make sure I have room for my sentiment up top. I'm going to put a little bit of tape runner on the back of the crab body and put it inside that shaker. Again, that's going to make the whole crab look orange rather than being able to see the yellow of the flag behind it. And now I'm going to pour in some of my shaker goodies. Again, those mica chips, my favorite, right inside there, just to fill it up. This is such a small shaker. The actual body part is not that big, so you can use plenty in one and still have enough for another card. I peel off that top protective layer, revealing the double-sided adhesive foam, and then lay the acetate on top. I love that all the acetate is die cut for you, so makes it really easy. Next, I'm going to put some tape runner just on the body of the crab because that's where the paper is going to hit the shaker, and the rest of it is just going to be popped up. And I didn't need to use foam adhesive behind it. It's going to stay up, I think, even if you mail it. I put a little bit of foam adhesive for the sentiment though because I felt like it was going to get lost in all of the pattern paper without it. And now again, I am using that fine tip on the Ultra Bond from Thermoweb to adhere my little eyes on top of the crab and then the little pupils on top of the eyes. And I'm using my jewel picker to pick up those tiny little pieces of black paper that I die cut to make those little eyeballs. So then I just added the mouth and some twine, and that one's done as well. Okay, here's for the little starfish. I am going to again use the VersaFine because this time I am stamping on pattern paper. I find that's the best ink to stamp on pattern paper. It really shows up because it's pigment ink, so it sits on top. You just have a little extra dry time that you have to be careful not to smear it. Okay, I am again using some of those extra dies from Queen & Co. to cut that shape out. I punched the middle of the starfish out, and then I'm putting some foam tape for the sentiment flag there. I'm going to put some tape runner behind that yellow pattern paper and then pour in some shells this time. And you can see I can really fill it up, and it will still shake around and look really cute once it's done. I did have a couple of the sequins try and escape on me, and so I'm just putting them back in there just to make sure that all of my little shells are in the shaker before I put the die cut acetate piece on top. And then I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of the frame that I die cut out of pattern paper, and this again matches that foam shape so that you cover up all that white. The next thing I'm going to do is cut along the wave pattern of another piece of pattern paper. Just wanted to add some more layers. I think one of the things that you can do to make all your cards look a little bit different is have fun with the pattern paper, really layering it up, whether you're cutting shapes like the die cut circle there that's scalloped, or hand cutting like these waves behind the little sentiment flag, just ways to add some interest and actually dimension to your projects as well. The last thing I'm going to do is use some Tonic Studios Nouveau Crystal Drops, and those create little white pearls around the starfish. So that one is done. The next shape that I'm going to work on is the mermaid. She is super, super cute, and the shaker is actually her tail. So I'm going to pop out the center of that tail, peel off that back protective layer, and lay it down on my card. Again, I've layered up some cardstock and some pattern paper. Then I'm going to put a little tape runner on the back of the interior piece of the tail and add my mica shapes inside. Peel off that top protective layer and lay down the die cut acetate piece on top. And once again, I'm going to put a little tape runner behind that frame shape. I'm making the mermaid tail all purple, so the shaker shapes are purple, the frame is purple, the interior is purple as well. I did cut the face and body out of some skin tone color cardstock, I guess, and then I'm layering it over the hair, which then I realize needs to kind of lay behind that piece of the tail there to make it all work together. So I did have to lift it up and shift those die cut pieces inside. Now I'm gonna put a little tiny drop, 2 tiny drops of glue on the face of the mermaid, and then I'm going to use the jewel picker to pick up those tiny little die cut eyes. I think they're super, super cute. So it is worth it to die cut them out and then to add them with a little bit of liquid adhesive. I think is the easiest way to adhere them. So again, if you have something like a jewel picker or even just a pin or something that you can pick them up with. Okay, and the next shape is a sand dollar. For this shape, I am going to, instead of cutting it out of pattern paper, I cut it out of white cardstock, and I'm ink blending it with Distress Oxide ink in Abandoned Coral. And this way I'm going to do the frame and the interior piece with the Abandoned Coral. There's also that little sand dollar shape that goes on top in the middle, and I'm going to do that the same color as well. I know that sand dollars are generally white, but I really liked that coral color, and I thought it would look pretty with that pink pattern paper and the gray pattern paper as well. I'm going to pop out the center of the sand dollar shaker, and I'm going to set that centerpiece aside, and I'm going to start adhering these strips of pattern paper. These are also die cut with some Queen & Co dies that I will link to down below. I love those diagonal dies. I think they're so much fun and easy to use on a card to add interest. I'm going to remove the back of that foam adhesive and then put it down, adhere the center, lay my little toppings inside, peel off that top protective layer, and then lay down my acetate, and once again add a little tape runner to the frame and then lay that right on top. So next I add the little bit of tape runner to that little sand dollar shape and put that right in the center of the shaker on top of the acetate, and I think that looks so sweet like that. I'm going to use this same Distress Oxide ink to stamp my sentiment. That's the Abandoned Coral. And I'm going to put that on a little flag on that diagonal piece of cardstock, but I am going to pop it up on some foam tape first, so that will have some dimension as well. And then I'm going to use some of that Ultra Bond liquid adhesive to adhere some of these pink coral colored shells around the sand dollar. And I think that these little shells can be both shakers on the inside if you want, and they can be embellishments on the outside. I'm going to tie some twine around the center of those 2 diagonals, and then I'm going to make sure to get some tape runner on the back of that twine so everything stays down. And I'm going to adhere it to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding note card and just cut the tails of that little bow. And I love this clean and simple look. Okay, for the next card, I'm going to do the shell, and the sentiment is "Let's Celebrate," which I think is super, super cute. And for this one, I'm going to do a small square card, so I'm going to focus the shaker shape on this circle that I've die cut out of purple cardstock. I am going to cut the shell out of white cardstock, and then I'm just going to put a hint of pink around the edge using Distress Oxide spun sugar just to give it a little bit of shading. When I pop out that middle piece of the shell, I'm going to use a pencil on white cardstock, and I'm going to trace that center shape. And this is the shape that I'm then going to cut out, because the die actually cuts little strips of paper that are the shape of the outside of the shell. So you could do that on the outside, but to cover the entire inside, you need to cut your own piece. So you can see it's not perfect, but you know what? It's going to be covered by the die on the outside, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do that same shading with the spun sugar, and then I'm going to adhere it down to my shaped shaker in the center there. I'm going to pour in both pink and blue shells, and I took some out because I wanted to definitely have a little mix of the 2 colors. I think that's so pretty, and I wanted to make sure everything fit and would move around. I'm going to peel off that top protective layer and lay down that die cut acetate, and then I'm going to put some tape runner on the back of the frame so you can see that the die would just cut out those thin pieces there. It wouldn't cut out the whole shell on the inside, and that's why we had to kind of trace it. Okay, so now I am making a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 square card, layering some pattern paper over a white card, and then layering this shaped shaker on the circle. And then next I am going to just ink up with the same sponge sugar on the edge of a little flag there. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiment in Distress Oxide Wilted Violet, which is going to match that really pretty purple pattern paper there. And I just love the way that everything kind of coordinates together with the ink colors and the pattern paper. It's just a really fun way to bring it all together and make everything coordinate. I'm going to use some foam tape once again to pop up my sentiment. And I'm going to lay that down right on top there. And then once again, I'm going to use that Ultra Bond liquid adhesive. I think you can see a pattern here now where I'm going to add the shells as embellishments on the outside using that liquid adhesive to adhere them. The next one is the shark, and the sentiment is "You are fantastic." I love this shark. I think he's so cute. So I am going to pop out the center of my shark, and that's going to be my shaker shape. I've also cut out the shark with the die in gray cardstock. So now I am layering some pattern paper on top of each other. This is going to be a horizontal card. So it's 5.5 by 4.25. And so this way it gives the shark enough room to look like he's kind of swimming across the card. I'm going to peel off that back protective layer and lay it down on my card. And then I'm going to put a little tape runner behind the interior piece of the shark and adhere that down. Next, I'm going to pour some of those little mica chips right in the center. I love this gray. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Then I'm going to peel off the top protective layer. I have found my matching die cut acetate piece, and I'm just going to lay that right on top, and that just keeps the shaker together. That is your shaker. And now it's time to customize by adding a little bit of tape runner to the back of that pattern paper frame that I cut out in gray. And I just think he's so adorable as is. I am going to use some gray ink. I believe this is Hickory Smoke, which I am stamping on yellow cardstock. And the nice thing about the Distress Oxide inks is because they have those pigment qualities, you can stamp on pattern paper and still see the color. So I am going to pop up that little sentiment flag on some foam tape there right underneath our shark. And then I'm going to use that Ultra Bond once again to adhere some little shells next to it. And I'm just going to create my little ocean floor here with my shells next to the sentiment strip. It is very easy to adhere these shells because they're not so tiny that they're impossible to pick up. Again, you could use a jewel picker if you were struggling to get them up and adhere them onto your card. But I didn't have any problems with these guys. They're a little bit larger. Now I'm going to use the Queen & Co. rubber bubbles. These did not come in the kit, but I had them in my stash, and I thought that they would make fun little bubbles to show where the shark was breathing. And then I am going to put a little dot of glue on the acetate and then adhere my eye right on top of the shaker. So it's fun to have some things sometimes inside the shaker. I've done even sentiments inside the shaker. And then sometimes it's fun to adhere things to the outside of the shaker. The eye I definitely like on the outside so you can see it even when all those shaker goodies are moving around inside. And that completes that one. So this one is the little angelfish, and it just says swimming by to say hello. Again, it just cuts those 3 pieces on the inside, and I wanted a whole piece. So I punched out the middle of the foam shape and I traced it with pencil, and now I am hand cutting or fussy cutting that out. And you definitely have to go inside that pencil in order to make it fit inside the shape. So it needs to be a little bit smaller than you think, and that's why I continue to go back and test it and then bring it back out and cut a little bit more off. Okay, for this one I am using a 4.25 by 5.5 inch top folding note card, and I am adhering down a piece of pattern paper that's thinner than that, that's got all the little fish on it, which I think is so cute. I used the Queen & Co. dies to cut out that scallop circle, pulled off the back protective layer of the foam shape and adhered it down, added some tape runner to the back of the pattern paper and adhered that down. Again, it doesn't have to be a perfect fit because that top frame that we're going to adhere on top is going to cover up any inconsistencies with my cutting, which you can see are very many because I am not a great fussy cutter at all. Okay, peel off the top protective layer and lay down your acetate again. and then put some adhesive on the back of that frame, and then lay that right down on top, and then again hides all those inconsistencies. Looks so cute. Okay, this time I'm using Distress Oxide ink in Blueprint Sketch to stamp my sentiment, and I am once again going to pop it up on foam adhesive. I really like the sentiment to be popped up because the shaker has so much dimension that I feel like the sentiment kind of gets lost if you don't pop it up a little bit. I love this big eye on the fish. I thought it would so cute. I know it's mainly for the crab, but it works well on the fish too. Okay, and this is the seahorse. So I am going to stamp my sentiment with Versamark ink on some plum cardstock. This is from Gina K Designs, and I will link all the cardstock colors as well down below. I'm going to heat emboss this with white embossing powder. I think it stands out really well on this cardstock. And you can see, I hope your day is a splash. I thought that was a really super cute sentiment as well. There's a ton of them in this stamp set that comes with the kit. I had a little bit of that anti-static powder tool that I just needed to brush off with a microfiber towel. And now I am doing the same thing that I did for all of them. Peeled off the back protective layer, put the foam down, adhered the paper inside, put our little mica inside, pull off the top protective layer, and laid down that acetate piece. It gets to be very easy. So if it's overwhelming for anybody right now, trust me, by the time you get through a couple of them, you'll know the drill and you'll be doing them in your sleep. They're so easy to do once you know exactly what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to use one of those rubber bubbles and just have that be for the eyeball, and then I'm going to put the little black pupil on top of there. What happened was I was going to just put the little black dot, and I just felt like it was getting lost, and I really thought this was kind of a fun way to make it almost like a googly eye, so I decided to go with that for this guy. I cut out some waves, and I die cut the bottom of the seahorse in that strip so that the wave would fit perfectly around the tail. So that's how I got that little wave to fit right there. I just used the bottom of the seahorse to cut through that pattern paper that I had hand cut with the waves. So that's 8 different cards with one kit from the Queen & Co. Under the Sea kit. And for each of these shapes, you can make 3 of them. So there's 3 seahorses, 3 starfish, and if you get through all that and you still want more, you can get all kinds of accessories, foam shapes and acetate and more toppings and things like that to restock your supply. So I will link all of that down below if you're interested to check it out. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today and sticking with me through this very long video. Have a wonderful day.